They say there's no problem bigger than any whiteboard because anything could be broken down into parts and figured out and solved. I feel the same way about Trello, especially about this setup of a classic Kanban board where I take incremental tasks and I put them as these little cards and I divide things up into 4 columns. All of the things that I need to do, stuff that I have started or is currently in the code in the works. So look out for these files. They might be being edited. Stuff that's stuck, I can't figure out what's going on, and stuff that I've done that usually I need someone to check over and approve. I also use these cards for grading purposes. I can filter down to see individuals and which cards they've done, and then I can click on those cards and see the details, their comments, and understand what they've done, look at the pages that they worked on, and see and evaluate the quality of their work. It means that there's a few lines here that I need to make sure that you understand. You don't drag a card out of the backlog and into progress without adding your name to it. So if I added a card here, something, I'll just say something, and now I'd add a label to what group I'm in, or tag it according to any other labeling system I'm using, and then I'd click here to assign a certain member, and I'd add my name to it, and then I drag it into in progress. When I'm done working for the day for that session, when someone's calling me, I've got to head out. Okay, so I click here, and then I write a note on my activity. What did I do? And you can also, if you're in an employment situation, you also log the time that it took. That way you get paid for that time. And so it's a good habit for you to get into. You just quickly write a note about what you did. If you want to distinguish yourself, if you want to make yourself stand out as a professional, do the next step. Also include a link to the file where I can see something. Include a link to the site that you worked on. Add in a picture or attach a file that you were editing if that was the task. Add additional detail so it makes it easier for someone to follow up. The bonus, if you do that, is also that should your project perhaps get accidentally deleted by one of your group members, that has happened several times. If that were to happen, then if you have a thorough record here, then you can use those details to quickly rebuild your project. It will come in handy. Additionally, if you're again in a paid context, if you add in those details, if someone were to be concerned that you're charging them for a certain amount, it'll make you feel really bad. But if you have all the details about what you did and to justify all the time, then you can make a very professional case for why you're charging what you're charging. So this is a very good habit to get into, and I will absolutely not allow you to drag a card across this line here into the stuck or done unless there are notes about your activity. Why are you dragging it into stuck where I will jump in and help as soon as I'm able? I need to know exactly why, and Mr. A gets very frustrated if there are no details here because I want to help you. If you put it into stuck, I get notifications, I get alerted, I will come to your rescue as soon as I'm able, and I will insist that you have details here about how I can help you. Use this app that I'm using right now to screen record yourself and explain the situation, and then drop it into stuck, and I will jump in. And then same thing with done. As I look through and grade you every week, I want to see good details in those cards. Okay, start by either cloning or forking the Flaskinni project. I would recommend forking because then it automatically sets up a new GitHub repository for your project. If you clone it, you'll get a copy of all the code, but then you'll need to make a new repo and get the remotes and adjust it on your code. But just forking makes it a little faster, and it'll get you a new URL. You can change the name, and copy that the link at the top. Or once you have your fork, you can also copy this link too. You need Python installed, you're going to need Postgres SQL installed, and you're going to need this Visual Studio Code installed. And once you've got all those, then Command Shift P or Control Shift P, and then we're going to git clone, and then paste the repository name, and then that'll make you a copy of your environment. Open a new window or the current one. I mean, it doesn't matter. Also, if you don't have that git option, you may need to, on a Mac, you'll need to install Visual Xcode and the Xcode command line extensions. On a PC, you'll need to install Git Bash. If you go to gitforwindows.com and install that. This is explained further on the Git book. First things first, you got to make your virtual environment folder. So tell Python, well, I need to tell Python 3. On a PC, you might just need to say, hey Python. But Python 3, use the module called virtual environment and create a folder. I'm just going to call it the same thing, virtual environment. And it'll establish that in place. There we go. Now I have requirements here with a bunch of repos, libraries that I want to install into my virtual environment. But first I need to activate it so that my pip knows that I'm basing my pip installer from this file. So my new source location for all my commands is venvironment run this script to connect it, and that shows me that now if I go which Python am I using, it shows me it's based out of this virtual environment folder. So that's great. I can now do pip install all the stuff from this requirements file. Just press tab to auto-complete and requirements.txt. Enter. Now it'll go through a bunch and it's going to crash. It's going to crash because I have this whiskey, and this is for Linux. This is intended in particular for the gateway service between my web server and my app. It's not necessary in a development environment. It's very necessary for my production environment, but I'm not going to be able to use it here. So, well, mine probably just worked just fine. So, serves me right for saying that assuredly. But you can just comment that out and get rid of that. I might have installed enough things that it works on mine, but it usually doesn't for most people. So don't be afraid to comment that out, save it, and then run the file again. So you'd save it and press up arrow and then enter and run it again. And then what I would do is say, you know what, I discard the changes here. Let's keep the record clean. Let's keep that in there. And I'll just comment it out and save it when I want to install it, and then uncomment it or just discard changes to restore it back to its saved version. That way I can keep that ready when I deploy it to a server, like we'll do using DigitalOcean. Okay, so now I'll create a pip just because. Now, I now have my virtual environment folder created and all my dependencies now installed into that lib, so that's great. Now what I need to do is get my 2 last files ready, and then I can run this. This file is my environment file, so I'll just call it .env. There we go. Contents here ready for you to copy, so you can just paste that right there. And that just says when I run it, it's going to be in the development environment. The app that you can run from is called Flaskinni. If you want to change this to match your project's name, that's great. Just remember to change that here. And then my database host is, I'm running my Postgres server right on this computer, so look locally. You can also put a username there, apparently. That's what we do when we use source layer. So source layer, you just specify the host name of the database account. File I need to create is private.py. Once that's up, I can also copy that from all of this stuff. Copy. I'm gonna paste it here. Now I've got to make some changes. So Postgres and Postgres, hopefully you didn't use that as your username and password for your Postgres database. You need to remember what that is. If not, you've got some Googling to do on how to change that or uninstall and reinstall and reconfigure your admin password so that you know the account. So doing that well is important. You also have to have the exact same name of the database that you created that this account has access to edit. And then you need to specify where you've saved your project. So you can do pwd, and that'll give you a folder name path. And once you get to the flaskinni folder, this project, then from here is hopping into apps, static, and images. That's where users will be able to start uploading files. That's not the static asset for your images that you will use for your templates. This is for users to upload. We might want to change that name. Cloned the environment. I've created a .env file and a private.py file, and I loaded my Postgres username and password into private.py. I have my virtual environment folder activated, and I installed all my dependencies to my virtual environment. Here it is. And now I can run flask run, and there it goes. And if I click and load it, all right, I'm all set.